Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is KidSafe with Opondi Eve. Now, despite taking an unforeseen break on this channel, I am back. It wasn't my wish, to actually take a break immediately after starting my channel, but you know what? Life happens. But now we are back with some great content. Now, I want to share with you my journey with my twins, the challenges, the gratitudes, the good and the bad, and also my experiences on raising multiples. How did I find out that I was carrying twins? Well, you see, during the 3.5 months, I noticed that I was bleeding. It wasn't too much nor too little, but the fact that you're bleeding and you are pregnant, that calls for an alarm. I was bleeding for like 4 days consecutively, and I had to use panty liners. If it is implantation bleeding, it happens between 12 weeks of conception. But you see, this was 3.5 months into the pregnancy, and I was really worried about it. So I went to the doctor and explained everything that was happening, though the bleeding had stopped at that particular time. So the doctor advised me to go see a sonographer and to go for a scan. So I went with my hubby to the sonographer. And when I went there, I was told to lie down, and the sonographer was ready to go on with the procedure. So 5 minutes into the procedure, the sonographer was like, congratulations, you are carrying twins. Okay.
There are two different individuals here, and your body has already responded to that. So this is the wall which is dividing them. Yeah, and this one has its own placenta, and this one has its own placenta.
What was running through my mind at that particular time? Before I became pregnant, I was a high fashion model with this petite body, strutting the high fashion runway in heels. And I couldn't imagine myself having two human beings growing inside of me. And another thing was having twins being genetic. And looking at it from both our families, like we've never had any history of twins. So that, and the fact that I have this petite body shocked me, like really shocked me. But for my hubby, he seemed happy, and he was capturing the moment as the doctor was doing the procedure.
Fetus is 15 weeks and 4 days, will be born on 10th of December 2018.
Excited. We're expecting twins. Our journey to twinhood has started officially today. Maybe I'm feeling
I don't know. Sijui. Mimi sijui niko feelings zangu sijui niko la mixed reaction.
Why?
I was not expecting.
I'm excited too because I wasn't expecting twins too. I wasn't.
Bye.
Excited. Oh,
Bye.
Bye.
So what was my morning sickness like? It was crazy. It was so crazy. And I remember there was a time when I was so sick. I could not eat for 3 months. I could not eat anything. Like whatever I put inside my mouth, I throw up. I could not drink water. I could not just literally eat anything because my mouth couldn't allow me. My appetite was zero, and I had very bad sense of smell. Like somebody walks in the room with some perfume, I literally puke. Because of my lack of appetite, I can remember very well I lost 4 kgs, from 64 kgs to 60 kgs. You could literally see my cheekbones. I lost weight, and because I was not eating, I was not drinking anything. So from the time I found out I was carrying twins, that was at 3.5 months until the 4th month, the morning sickness disappeared. And from the 4th month all through before I delivered, I had a smooth pregnancy. And I also planned for the BAM photo shoot. It went so well that I will start doing that time. It was so tiresome, but I thank God it went well. I remember very well on the 5th of November, that was my last prenatal clinical visit, and the nurses told me that I'll be expecting my babies on the 12th of December. So that was a month too. Yeah, so we knew that we had like a month of preparations, to buy baby stuff and, just to get prepared, yeah, a month too, yeah. But it happened that on 6th of November, my hubby traveled for work. I had to go to my parents' house because my sister was there. My parents had traveled, so I went to stay with my sister for that duration. And on the 6th, at 7 p.m. in the night, I started feeling pain. Hey, on my right side, my left side, my back, and my whole body was painful. That pain was excruciating. There's no amount of words that can explain the amount of pain that I was feeling. So I just gave myself hope. At 7 p.m. I was there. 8, 9, I decided to go sleep. And I couldn't because the pain was too much. So at 3 a.m. in the morning, I told my sister, now I can't take it anymore. We need to rush to the hospital. I'm carrying twins and I'm skeptical, like something might happen. So I needed to be very, very careful and I need to act very fast. So at that time, we went to the hospital. I saw this gynecologist. I explained to him everything and he gave me some pain meds. Yeah, I took the meds and he told me to go back home and relax. The meds are going to work. So we went back home, and I remember when we were coming back, I felt like I wanted to throw up. So I asked the taxi guy to pull over, and I came out of the car. So I remember when I was puking, I couldn't hold my bladder and I peed on myself. I got back into the car, I took my Masai Kikoi and I wrapped myself. I remember I had peed on myself. What pregnant women go through at times. So we went back home, and so that was around 4:30 a.m. So when we went back home, the meds didn't do anything. The pain was still so much, and I told my sister, I can't take it. Like, we need to go back to the hospital because something might happen, and we're just the two of us. It will be a bit risky. At around 5 a.m., we called another taxi to take us to the hospital. So when we were getting outside, my parents were traveling the same night to Nairobi. So we just met with them outside. They were being dropped by another taxi. So when my dad saw my condition, he was like, we need to rush to the hospital again. And my mom was like, no, she's going to be okay. My dad insisted that no, we have to take her back to the hospital. So with the same taxi that dropped them, we went back to the hospital with my dad, my mom, and my sis. So when we went back to the hospital, the doctor was like, oh, okay, now this looks a bit serious. We need to admit her. So I was admitted and my parents left together with my sister. And that's how I finally got admitted. That was now on the 7th of November. I gave back my babies through cesarean section because one of the twins was in breech presentation, so I couldn't give birth normally, so I had to go through CS. So after that, that's when I went for the CS on the 7th of November, and through God's grace, I got my babies. And by seeing them, I was so happy. So my twins actually came as a blessing, and I was so blessed to have them. I was so happy, first time mom and you're getting twins, that is such a blessing, and I was so grateful. For the 2.5 days after giving back to my babies where I could not breastfeed them, I was told to give them formula, and I had to give them none for those days. And I remember it was hard for me because I had to go to the nursery and get the naan, mix everything up, and feed my babies. And they didn't even take it so well. Being newborns, I wonder how they tasted that, and they could compare to breast milk, and they hadn't even tasted my breast milk yet. But it was hard for me, so I really prayed to God for my milk production to happen. And after 2.5 days, the milk started coming out, and I started, breastfeeding my babies. And because they were too tiny, because they were preterm, I gave birth to them at 35 weeks. I was advised to express the milk and feed them with a syringe. Feeding your babies with a syringe, that was something that I dreaded, but I had to do it. And I also had to use, some plastic bottles that I was given at the hospital to feed them with, because they couldn't suck my breasts properly, they couldn't latch properly. So, because like I said, they were preterm and they were born earlier. So those were some of the challenges that I went through at the hospital. And I remember, because I couldn't feed them properly, they developed jaundice. And when the doctors were doing their rounds in the maternity ward, I noticed them looking at my baby's eye. First, it was my first twin. Hers was so evident that her eye was yellowish. So I had the doctors mention jaundice. The fact that I didn't know what jaundice really was, I had to Google and get information about it. And it really, really broke me down, and I felt really bad, like, why now? Why my baby is getting jaundice at this particular moment? And this will make even my stay longer in the hospital, and I had already given up. I just wanted to go back home. But you see, the fact that also my breasts were not producing milk, that was another issue. So I was told that, the doctors told me that I was going to extend my stay in the hospital. I cried like almost the whole day. But you see, the pediatrician told me that it was okay, because jaundice is something that happens to babies, and if it's taken care of, the baby will just be well. So I remember I cried so much, and I went to the pediatrician who was taking care of my babies, and I requested her to take me to a separate room where they'll bring in the photolight, and I'll be with my babies. Because you see, the fact that I was in this other maternity ward, and most of my friends that we were with during that period had left, I felt like I was going to be lonely. So I needed to go to some other room, and I requested them if I can bring if my sister can come over and stay with me, and they agreed. Thank God they agreed, and God blessed that pediatrician for me, because she really helped me big time. So they took me to a separate room, and they brought in the photolight, and then they decided that they're going to put both my babies there, because for the second twin, the jaundice hadn't developed at that particular point, but for the first twin, it was somehow severe. So they decided to put both of them, and it was the worst experience ever. It was the worst experience ever. I couldn't even sleep at night, because you see, they had to stay there for like 3 days consecutively. I just get them out when it's time for them to breastfeed, and remember, it's day 3, and that's when milk started coming out, and it wasn't that much, and I was feeling pain. My breast was so painful, so I had doctors and nurses coming in to help me express the milk manually, using their hands. They used to express my milk, and it was so painful. My babies were still under that photolight, and I'm here trying to express milk manually. Then I had to try the breast pump, which was not even working properly. But thank God, when they were under the photolight, every morning I would take them to the doctor. Then they would draw some blood and test the level of bilirubin, and the good thing is that it was reducing, so that was the best thing that happened. Day by day, the bilirubin was reducing, and I was advised to feed them more. The more I feed them, the more they they excrete the bilirubin from their body through, peeing and also through their poop. Yeah. After that, thank God, they noticed that the bilirubin levels had dropped, and I was ready to go home. I couldn't wait for this moment because, hey, seeing your babies under the photolight is something that any mother will not even wish for. So I was discharged, and it was time for us to go home.
Guys, you really sasa.
Wanafuata leza ningependa.
Dad. Guys.
Oh, Papa, congrats.
Maybe I'll be here for the journey. Present. Oh, I'll be here.